Other points?
No, those are excellent points, Steve. And there was one other point I wanted to make. We're talking a lot about now about rebuilding the infrastructure in this country, which has been so badly neglected for a long time. And one of the key pieces of infrastructure we need to rebuild is the electrical system. You know, one of the interesting things about nuclear power, or coal for that matter, is you take a piece of uranium or a lump of coal. It takes 3 lumps of coal, or 3 pellets of uranium, to produce 1 unit of usable electricity that leaves the plant at the switchyard. And then you lose a tremendous amount more as it goes out along these distribution and transmission lines. And we can move to, and we need to, a smart grid where you just don't get information from the utility, you give information to the utility. So, for example, if we're coming up on a time when it's really hot and everybody's running their air conditioners, maybe your refrigerator signals, I can turn me down a degree, turn me up a degree or 2, until this is over, instead of having to rely on, we're putting on voluntary alert, everybody turn off try not run your air conditioners. It could do that sort of things and provide a lot of information, real-time metering. These are things that we need to do. One thing the utilities aren't very good at is research and development. They don't spend a whole lot of their budgets on research and development, so we need to have funds for that. And again, Joe, it'll provide wonderful job opportunities for these people who are so excited about learning how to build, install, and maintain this technology.
Absolutely, we're all about rebuilding the electrical infrastructure in the United States, but yeah, and the technology's there, and they have to get just get started on doing it. I know that the metering, as far as smart metering, I know that they're looking forward to within the next month or 2 to start to redo the whole state of Maine. They literally have to go to every residence in Maine, pull the meter, and put a new meter on. So they're gonna start there. The actual transmission in the grid system. That's a little more complicated, and it's going to take some time and some revenue, and there has to come to some agreement as to how that's going to be paid for, and whether all the utilities are going to combine and come up with the money to rework the grid, or where the money's going to come from. I don't know, but they have to get together, and it can't get all caught up in red tape. This has to be done now, and not 10 years from now. That's what happens.
Yeah.
When we're in the emergency and it had to be done yesterday, well, that's when we start thinking about it, and it's too late. We have to do this stuff now.
Yeah. It's interesting. A few weeks ago, I saw a beta version of a product that Google is developing. They're developing everything, aren't they? They're developing a little smart meter that you can have on your website that will tell you all the energy use in your house. They've actually been beta testing it with their employees. And one of their employees, they reported back that one of their employees noticed that every once in a while there would be these peaks of power use. He didn't know it was from an old refrigerator he had in the back that was completely inefficient, that was using a huge amount of his total energy consumption. He had no idea until he had this little applet working, and then he could just disconnect that thing and get a new refrigerator and eliminate that problem. But there's something to be said about incentives, as Joe was talking about, and as standards. Recently and in the past years, companies like Duke Power and others have strongly supported new legislation like the Clean Energy Act that's in Congress right now. And the reason why they support it is because they know this has to happen, and they want clear rules for competition. They want to know, should they invest in all of this when even if morally they think it's a great idea, when their competitors aren't there? They want even playing fields for this stuff. And it really does work. I was thinking back when Bob was talking about the legislation that came in the 70s. I worked in Southern California, or all over California in the early 80s, and there were windmills going up everywhere. It was unbelievable. Southern California Edison brought us to these demonstration plants where there were huge mirrors pointing to solar towers and all this other stuff. And really all of that stuff dried up. People knew through the tax credits that they were going to make a worthwhile investment. And just recently, excuse me, about 5 years ago, I was in Europe. My wife's from Europe, and we were in Germany, and we drove up to my sister-in-law's house, and she had a brand new solar power on her solar thermal panel on her roof. And I said, "This is great. How did this happen?" She said, "Well, the local government helped us finance this." Here's the problem. The barriers to doing this, the upfront costs of doing these things are high. There are these huge barriers to entry. This is where these sorts of laws and regulations can really help. We didn't have this, but other countries in the world signed on to the Kyoto Accord, which had cap-and-trade agreements. So what happened was every municipality, every country, if they use less energy than their allotted credits, then they could sell those extra credits to other countries for money. And they literally, what they did was they actually had towns in Germany competing against each other. So if your town reduced their energy usage more, you would get credits from the government. You would win against, it's like Bedford winning against Merrimack. They were literally competing with each other. And so literally the local towns were taking the funds generated from that and helping finance the startup cost for my sister-in-law to put a solar panel on her roof. So those sorts of things, you'll hear in the near future, because these acts are moving through Congress right now. How much is it going to cost us and all these negative things. But in fact, these federal incentives can make a huge difference and can spur on the economy and spur on these new jobs.
I think it may be worth mentioning that our newly elected junior New Hampshire Senator, Jean Shaheen, is on the Energy Committee. And she should be well educated about the things that we care about. For example, there's now legislation going forward to deal with what they call a clean energy bank. Mm-hmm. And from my point of view, I certainly don't want to see the nuclear power interests take that over and declare themselves a clean, green, renewable energy source and take up all the available funding. So that's the sort of thing I think that we ought to make sure that we let Jean know about. She's been involved in the Seabrook issue almost as long as I have, and she should be right there with us on all the things that we care about here. So let's be in touch.